Now, in the last hour, Iraq has recalled its ambassador from Tehran to discuss Iran's attack on Irbil in the north of the country. The United States has also commented on the ballistic missile attack launched into Iraq by Iran's Revolutionary Guards. They've described it as reckless and imprecise. Well, the US military said it had tracked the strikes, which Iran claims had destroyed anti-Iranian targets, including what it called an Israeli spy headquarters. Now, Israel hasn't commented. This was one of the buildings that was hit near Irbil in the Kurdish region of the country. Local officials there said that 4 people were killed. Well, let's go live now to our Middle East correspondent, Hugo Bachega. Hugo, can you tell us more about what we know about this attack?
Yeah, we don't have many details, but there was a statement from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard saying that they had targeted anti-Iranian terrorist groups, and in Irbil they said they had hit an Israeli spy base. There hasn't been any reaction from the Israelis. 4 people were killed in Irbil when houses were hit. There were loud explosions overnight as a result of those attacks. Air traffic had to be temporarily suspended at the city's airport. And the Iranians also say that they targeted positions of the Islamic State group in Syria, and they say that this was in retaliation to attacks. The Islamic State group said it was behind a major attack in Iran earlier this month that killed more than 80 people at a memorial service for the top Iranian commander Qasem Soleimani. But a lot of the focus is on what happened in Iraq. The Kurdish authorities have described these attacks as a crime against the Kurdish people. And again, this is happening as there have been concerns about an escalation of the violence across the region, sparked by the Israeli war against Hamas in Gaza.
What does this mean, Hugo, in terms of the rising tensions that we know are escalating in the region?
So we're watching 2 different situations here that are interconnected. First, the Israeli military offensive against Hamas in Gaza, which was obviously sparked by the Hamas attacks on the 7th of October in Israel. And these attacks that have been happening across the region, attacks that have been carried out by groups supported by Iran. You have Hezbollah here in Lebanon, which has been carrying out attacks targeting Israeli positions almost every day. The Houthis in Yemen, who've been attacking commercial vessels in the Red Sea, and obviously that has led to a response by the US, by the UK against Houthi positions in Yemen. And there have been attacks by other factions and groups targeting American bases and American locations in Iraq and in Syria. And all those groups are part of the so-called Axis of Resistance, which is this alliance of forces supported by Iran across the region. So there have been concerns that this violence could escalate into a wider regional conflict.
Hugo, thank you. Well, for more analysis on this, earlier I spoke to defence analysis and the BBC's former defence and diplomatic correspondent, Jonathan Marcus.
There's a certain amount of confusion on the Iranian side and from the Iranian statements. The statement from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps suggests also that the attack into Irbil in Kurdistan was also in some sense related to retaliation or a response to the bombing of this memorial service that you referred to. So it's rather strange. And there were also attacks very near a new American consulate that's being built there. Also, the Kurdish authorities are saying that they shot down some drones in the vicinity of Irbil airport, where again there are some American forces, we believe, based. So all of this is rather shadowy and unclear. But it suggests, of course, another worrying factor that potentially, of course, here the Americans and the Iranians directly could come into confrontation. We know over recent months there have been a large number of Iranian-sponsored attacks on US bases in the region, but these have been actually carried out by proxy groups in Iraq and elsewhere, who to some extent take their orders from Tehran. But these weapons were actually fired by the Iranians, both at targets, as you say, in northern Iraq and also, of course, in Syria.
Jonathan, you mentioned the shooting down of the armed drones there, and this, of course, all comes amid those rising tensions in the region. Can you just briefly tell us about that?
Well, look, there are essentially two overlapping sets of conflicts going on. The first is obviously the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. That has prompted other actors to pitch in to varying degrees. We see Hezbollah fighting across Israel's northern border to an extent. Obviously, the Houthis shooting missiles at Israel up the length of the Red Sea, but also, of course, crucially, and this involves Britain, attacking commercial shipping lanes, and Western warships who are trying to protect them. So what you have here really are two sets of conflicts overlapping. One, Israel v. Hamas and the ramifications of that. But of course, behind that, the much longer running and wider conflict between a low-level conflict, if you like, between Iran and its various allies in the region and Western interests more generally, and the United States in particular.